Oh, I think everything's working.
We're live.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm probably gonna have to log into everything else too.
Foolish. Foolish, I say. Uh, um,
You know how it is having issues with like one of my accounts wouldn't upload correctly, and I was like, I gotta clear everything out. It's probably have too much stuff.
good. So I know there's only 8 minutes to like the actual show starts, but welcome to the short pre-show.
Yeah.
uh, Before we start talking about gaming stuff and kind of like today's topic and everything, I wanted to know, Chris, have you been kind of paying attention to like the Logan Paul stuff that's been happening?
Which one? The one where he's switching to MMA, or is he doing something else now?
Or more like the cryptos scams and crypto zoo and all that jazz and stuff.
No, what happened now?
Oh, you gotta go watch that CoffeeZilla stuff. Oh, essentially what it is CoffeeZilla put out like a 3-part YouTube series, basically going in depth about the whole like crypto zoo and who was involved, what was going on, um, what parties did what, and basically whatever he could find out. And it's like a little over an hour of content, like to kind of binge through. But it was really
Nice.
well done. And it just kind of shows really just that the project just seemed like it was at conception due to be a rug pull. It just didn't work out right entirely. That's kind of like a reasonable thought that you can get for watching the videos. And I think Logan Paul, like this a few days ago, also kind of responded to saying that, this is all BS. Like you're making me out to be a bad guy. And, that says a lot of stuff that probably doesn't really dispute the hour-long content. And I don't think you could do it in 7 minutes unless it was 7 minutes of just written stuff. But
Right.
normally 7 minutes is hard to kind of hit every point without really like diving down into it and seeing where the fallacies are. But essentially, I think everybody's kind of waiting for CoffeeZilla's response to that. But pretty much everybody else has been responding to it because everybody else feels like, yeah, you didn't really defend yourself in anything. Probably did worse by saying anything.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. That's kind of his MO, though, right? He just ends up making things worse by keep adding them,
Yeah,
saying something.
but I think that's just like the YouTube way, and I think it's sad and funny at the same time because it's like if you say anything, it might still not come off as people being able to understand it, or you might say something that just seems wrong, and or you just make yourself look bad. And a lot of times it ends up being more of a negative than a positive. If you don't address it, then it's like you're not really addressing it to the people who actually watch you. You're not bringing it to
Right.
their attention because like you haven't heard about it. So that means you don't watch CoffeeZilla or Logan Paul, or B, you just not in that circle to where the YouTube algorithm thought they can share it with, you know. And
I think
so
it's A and B for me on that one. Who's
probably
who's CoffeeZilla?
I'll have to link you to the channel in a minute. But there's if you haven't seen any of his videos, like it's a watch. Like you got years of content to kind of watch some of the stuff he's kind of gone over. But
That sounds good to me. I'm running out of stuff to watch on YouTube. I've been out of the dead phase at this moment. Like, all my podcasts is over caught up. What do I do now?
yeah, but definitely if you like people kind of breaking down stuff, breaking down some like the crypto stuff that's happening that have been like either rug pulls or stuff that's just like, hey, I looked through this course and yeah, this course is just as BS as we thought it was, but I actually tried to do it to see how much of it was. It's a good channel to kind of watch. Mainly because he makes it a little bit more entertaining, more of like a Netflix series rather than just kind of like a YouTube video essay.
Yeah.
That one, and I think also watch Illuminati too. I think that one that's another channel that I've been kind of more into, only because she talks about a lot of different companies. This stuff
Three.
that I really didn't even know about because I'm like, oh, I remember hearing that in the news, but I didn't really dive into it, kind of stuff. It's like all those videos are like an hour long by themselves.
That's not bad.
But it's been kind of interesting because it's like, oh, okay, at one point you do kind of feel bad about about Logan Paul for if any of the other stuff is true, like yeah, he did kind of get shafted a little bit, but it's hard to like not overshadow that with the like, yeah, but there were text messages and stuff that kind of showed you had a different mindset at one point, and while you didn't sell, while you didn't do the pulling of the rug, it just sounds like a situation where it's like it's just your coworkers beat you to it. It's not that you didn't want to do it, is that at this point could you do it?
Right.
And then yeah, and unfortunately they knew you were going to take the fall for it, so it's like they took advantage of it, and that's kind of where I feel sorry for, because two things can be true at the same time. Like, I didn't mean to do it, but at the same time, like, oh, if everything was kind of correct in the way that was supposed to go down, it might have still gone down the other way. Either way, it's really hard to see whether the people who actually invested in it would have still been okay, or would have been fine. Because like at the end of the day, it's like it was supposed to be like a game or whatever, and just the main product itself didn't work. And even now, it's like, okay, the main project still really doesn't work. And at this point, I'm not sure what the projects are. Like, to me, crypto is just one of those things where I see too many of this stuff that I'm not going to bother with it. It's like it's just not a good investing platform. Not something that I can really be behind on. Um, Hopefully, it might get better. Hopefully, the stuff about it kind of hits where it's supposed to. But at this point, I'm like I'm sick when I hear about it even getting to the game space. And maybe companies might even think about it like, okay, how can we do this with NFTs and games? So it's like, it would be cool. There is an aspect of you can do with it if it's like a forever game, but we also need to stop making those too and stop making games that are I'm going to keep you on on this one platform, which is going to be one of the topics of today's video that I kind of did some stuff recently that I felt like I kind of wanted to talk about. That
Ugh.
kind of had me a like different experience.
What is your what's your quick view on NFTs in video games?
Um, there is a right way to do it, but how do you get business people or people who don't see the opportunity to make more money in one way to kind of do stuff in a way that everybody may not come up on top, like everybody make like a buku amount of dollars, but the concept still has integrity, outside of everything else, for like how NFTs are and stuff like that. I feel like it breeds too much bad. Like, it's one of those things where like there aren't any rules to it, and there's a lot of people who are not artists and stuff who are like really getting into the space, who are finding a way to have generated art and finding a way to basically create value out of nothing, because either they have the talent for it or they have a way of using kind of like their influence and stuff to kind of make something have value. And I'm all fine with it. A
Right.
shirt can be different prices and materials, but then at the end of the day, Louis Vuitton shirts cost that much because Louis Vuitton, not because they're made out of platinum. It's just one
Yeah.
of those things where it's like value can be created or value can be added. But it's one of those things where it's like when something truly has no value, and you have to ask your question of what do you do with it after you attain it? And the question is, well, hold it until either I get some benefit out of it or I get more money. And, sometimes it's like, yeah, well, couldn't you just do that with the stock market like everybody else? Is the stock market really that worse off that you can't just learn how to do stocks or whatever? I mean, maybe not day trading or whatever that, but from what I understand, the safest thing is to put into a SP 500, whatever it's called, and kind of keep it like that. That's probably the best way to get $1 million, at least in your later years. Everything else is like if you're not really kind of in the know, then you pretty much are helping the people in the know.
I feel you.
All right. And with that, we could start the first episode of the year. But we're going to go ahead and call it episode 22 of Gaming Over 30. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. There's just a few things that kind of wanted to kind of go over. Maybe a long episode, maybe a short one. But I am glad for the people who are here to watch us live today. And if you are not, you're kind of missing out. Remember, we'll be on here every Friday, 8 p.m. Say Eastern time. I still got to kind of get
Yes.
all that kind of in my head. I just can't say it off the tongue like I wanted to. But what I can say is my name is DuShaun Williams. This is Christopher Mancata. And Chris, I have a question for you. And that is, have you been gaming since the last time we talked?
I have. I've been playing High on Life actually, and I'm getting close to finishing it. I have to go after Doctor Giblets.
Oh, okay. You're kind of at that point. Oh, I mean, you're not that far from completing it.
Yeah,
At least like the next part after that is not really like a time sink, unless you're trying to like, oh, I forgot all this other stuff. Let me go back.
yeah.
So
No, I've just been running through it when I get a chance to play and stuff like that. And I really tried to play as much as I could because now my break is over, and I got my 1 month left of classes to do and stuff like that. So I got 2 classes to go, and I just gotta bury down in them, get them done, and I'll be done with school, and then I'll be freaking free to play games a lot more.
and then are you doing any crazy final projects? Something you got to submit? You're doing a trailer, some special effects?
I have a, I guess I have to do like a project, but I don't think it's anything crazy, crazy. It's like I don't know the full details because they haven't really listed it, but it's something about trying to put it into a film festival, and I think it's like a fake film festival. And so I'm gonna do a how-to video on how to play Blitzkrieg Bop on the drums by the Ramones.
Oh, okay. That's pretty dope.
Yeah,
I mean,
because I was
like,
like,
I want to see your creative integrity.
yeah, yeah, I already have ideas flowing and stuff like that, and it'll be fun to do because that song's like one of the main staples of songs to learn to play drums in general. Because it's
Mhm.
so basic, easy, it's fun. Everybody likes to listen to it. Anybody can play it once you get the hang of it, and you can like play it slow, speed it up, and it helps to build a lot of other things. So I was like, I'll be perfect. That's an easy thing for me to do. I don't have to worry about getting other people involved. I can just do it myself. If I do get people involved, it's just to help get like certain shots in and go from there.
All right. Well, the reason why I asked mainly is because I've been gaming a lot. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is not just play a lot of other games. What I wanted to do this time around was I wanted to try and play as many games as I could.
At once.
Mainly, well, not at once. It was mainly I wanted to play a game that didn't take a lot of time personally. I've looked at a lot of the games that I play, like High on Life. High on Life, I didn't really look at this time as much as I thought. I know I kind of had an idea of how long it was going to be, but I wasn't really tracking myself. But I knew it wasn't really a long game, and
Right.
I wanted to really kind of jump into it, play it, and then I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed picking up a game, playing it, beating it and being like, "Oh, I got my good fix." And so I wanted to keep repeating that. There was a lot of project games that I wanted to play, um, and I just said, I'm gonna try them out. I was on Xbox Game Pass. There are some games I was like, I keep seeing it. I want to try it out, so I tried Beacon Pines. Not really action-packed games, more visual storytelling, but it was a very good game that had a very interesting concept to it, and it was 6 hours. So I was like, I'm definitely doing it. 6 hours, I'll figure it out. Had a great time, and then the next game, I was like, okay, what's another game? The Plague the Requiem or whatever it's called. I was like, how long did it take to beat this game? 17 hours? How many chapters? At first I thought it was 12 chapters, and I was like, 12 chapters? Let's do it. I kicked off the game, and I was like, yeah, okay, I could probably do this. It doesn't seem like it's more like God of War storytelling than it is like, oh, let me either hack a slash a lot or let me
Right.
explore, an open area for an hour. So it was very, you kind of know where to go because everybody's talking. And I was able to beat that. Figured out it wasn't 12 hours, it was 17. But the last three kind of really just really, they were fast. They were kind of like, okay, let's kind of get this going down. We kind of had you here long enough. I need you out. But it was a 17-hour game or, something like that. It wasn't really a long game. And I wasn't trying to do I wasn't trying to be a completionist. And none of these games I were really trying to be a completionist. Become Pines, I was close because it was like, oh, there was some things I could have got. But I was like, yeah, but I just don't really care for it. Like I would probably have to open up a quick guide or whatever just to see like the last two things. And then finally today I'm in the middle or about to finish Stray because I looked at
Nice.
that and Stray was with completion as 6 hours. So I was
How
like,
you liking Stray?
so one thing about Stray is that I was almost bored at the very beginning because I don't necessarily care for the appeal of being a cat, and the game really relies heavily on that because there's no
Mm,
talking in the game. It's more
right.
like blah 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 blah. But Beacon Pines is the same. There wasn't really talking in that one except for the narrator, and just coming off from playing the Requiem where everybody has something to say. If not for the people, then the rats had something to say over and over and over. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, you kind of go to a game that's silent that just seems kind of eerie. You're in pretty much a slum basically, and you're seeing a lot of robots, and you're kind of talking to them as if they were humans, but you're a cat, and somehow you are able to understand each other. Game doesn't really explain, but they're like, yeah, we love cats. It doesn't. Who cares? And it's like one of those things that like no one seems aware that while everything else is dead, we got a cat walking around with no reason. So is after a while, I was like, it's like, I kind of want to put it down, but then I kind of just kept, yeah, let me keep playing it. It's like they shouldn't be all that long, and I might like it. And I kind of was getting a little bit more into it, mainly because being exploring like a cat was probably the thing that was kind of getting better. After a while, you kind of you go around in a circle a while, you kind of know the circle. In the first area, you kind of start remembering where things are, and then you trying your best to find the things that you like. Did I actually do that? Let me see if I can run up there. And you just see where you can jump and hop, and like, oh, okay, as a cat, you could pretty much do a lot of stuff. And you're like, okay, I can, for a short game, there is a good amount of exploration, mainly because you're a small cat trying to get from point A to B. And it's glorious. It's nice. You're like, okay, I can get this. I don't necessarily care for the meow button, and really doesn't do a lot of stuff. And I think really the game just kind of wants you to just be an asshole and just like,
Re-
hey, is that a pot? Yo, pot. Hey, is that paint? Yo, paint. It's like it kind of does a lot of that, and that gets funny, but not really like, okay, this is peak content. I gotta keep doing this. After a while, you're like, you just don't really care anymore. Um,
right.
but it was the exploration, being able, as a cat, exploring something where if you were like a person, you probably get through it like really quickly. As a cat, even kind of running, you're not really like fast. You're just faster than the things that are chasing you. So you're having hot, time. You jump around the place. You're going to back alleys. You're going on top of rooftops. You're trying to complete, good puzzles, small puzzles. But it gives you enough time to where like the playground isn't too big, where it feels like you're just exploring into like dark, deep caves or whatever. It's enough to where it's like double check what you know that you did, and then see if you actually did the things that you didn't. That's kind of what the game is. And so after a while, they don't keep you doing that too much, and there's you can always kind of just get by and stuff. And a lot of the challenges and stuff, some of the challenges I finished before they became like a challenge task, because
Nice.
you kind of get conditioned to be like, talk to everybody, go everywhere. Somebody says they might need something, you might just have it, already. And so there's just something like right now, I was like, oh, I need this and this. And you're like, you mean this? And it's like, oh, shit. Okay. Well, and then then the story progresses all of a sudden. There's just something that is really quick, but it's a really quick game. I can't say it should have been on the game of the year list. Like
Yeah.
even Plague the Requiem, like as much I feel like a lot of effort was behind it, a lot of effort wasn't behind like basic emotions and face, or like sometimes the syncing of voice wasn't syncing with the lips.
Uh,
And there was like a lot of like, these are very like indie issues. Like I
right.
don't expect a big company to really, play, ship this game, and literally as the game starts, you see errors. That's how like he felt. And it was one of the things like I could definitely feel like it got better as the game progressed, but I almost thought that my Xbox wasn't working. I was like,
Oh no.
is my home theater system broke? What's going on? I'm checking every speaker. I'm making sure stuff. I'm like, why is it coming from this angle? Blah blah blah. Going in the settings, like, okay, Atmos stereo. I'm checking everything, and it's just like, yeah, it's the game. The game is just like I don't know what happened, but the game broke. It's like
Yeah.
and then it was like okay, everything started being fine again, so I was okay. But it's one of those things where it's like, I know there's a lot more stuff that happened this year, so it must have. I think what happened, and this is kind of what I'm trying to get to. I think when you're not trying to like play a lot of games that are just like full on live service, a lot of games where like they don't end. Their job is not supposed to end. The job is supposed to create content so you can keep playing it. You can just really jump into a lot of different worlds. You can have time to play a lot of different stories. Stories get more fleshed out even if the gameplay is short. And that's something that I kind of realized. Big and Pies doesn't really have any shooting. It doesn't have a lot of stuff. But in the 5.5 hours I got to play, I had the chance to jump into a lot of different stories. And those stories got to get flushed, and I really cared about them. And even with, this cat, you're caring about the character, you care about the things that he's now doing. I don't really care about like how the end goal is. I care about what this, objective is taking me through because the things that I'm doing along the way are now starting to become a little bit more exciting. And I'm happy that
Okay.
hey, I can actually finish this. I can get to the end and then I can think about what's the next thing I can do. And I realize I haven't done that a lot in 2022. I play a lot of Epic 7 every day. Even when I was doing all this, I was still playing that, you know, doing my daily jobs. I realized, I'm probably playing too much multiverse. Maybe I need to put multiverse down. That was one of the things I had to do. Like, I can't play this game and then, oh, let me go back to multiverse. I realized I just didn't have enough time during the day.
Right.
It's really just kind of, I had to pause. Like, I can't pause Epic 7 because I'm in guilds, but I can pause a fighting game that really doesn't have any big stakes outside of, hey, well, you didn't play enough to get enough points for the battle pass. You sure? It's like, yeah, you know what? I am sure. I'm okay not getting the rewards from the battle pass. I'm okay not giving you money for the Christmas stuff, you know?
Right.
And I got to really enjoy gaming this whole winter break. I took off work, so it really kind of helped there, but I have family over, so if I wasn't working one thing, I was working another. Um, but I enjoyed trying to knock out and play as much gaming as I could. And the fact that I was playing shorter games meant that I couldn't really be bored. I got the
Right.
chance to experience new worlds. It's kind of like reading different books. Like, like they're different genres and stuff. But the fact is it's a 200 page, 300 page book. There's a lot of stuff in it. You can read it. It doesn't really take you a lot of time and you enjoy it. Same thing with kind of like some manga. It's like, oh, I know this manga's only 10 volumes or whatever, but it's still nice to be able to read it and kind of catch up. And that's kind of how it was with gaming, except there are endings, and endings are always great. It's nice to know that I played and beat this game. But it did get me kind of scared to play some of the games that I bought because I was like, okay, well, how do I end this? And it's like, let me look at Elden Ring. Elden Ring, 50 hours without doing any extra stuff, just trying to do the main stuff. Okay, maybe not.
And that's even like if you're good at it type of thing because you could be stuck on a boss for a while in
Pretty
Elden
much.
Ring.
And maybe that 50 hours kind of incorporating that you're probably going to get slapped. It's like, I don't think I have to see, but I'm not sure how much of a difference it is if someone was just good at the game. Um,
Right.
but I'm thinking a lot of that is if you're actually exploring, but not trying to collect everything, maybe 50 hours. But 50 hours is a lot of time. I just realized that's a lot of time. God of War, pretty much up to that number for a lot of like the story bits. I think the second game is a lot longer than the first. I had half a mind to actually go back to the first one, finish it, and be
Bless you.
something that I can really do. But I started to kind of put that to the side. I'm like, you know what, God of War will be here, and I'll have time in and off of work and stuff like that. Be able to kind of really get into it. And then I was kind of looking at other stuff. I was like, okay, well, I need to play the Persona Strikers. That's probably gonna take a little bit. Fantasy Star Online RPG.
Can take a long
It was
time.
like 130 for a full
Yeah.
completion is, but it was still 50. another 50-hour game, and I just realized I was like, man, like these games can be a time sink. This I was like, and I was just trying to get away with playing a time sink game because it was hard for me to really enjoy gaming when I feel like I'm not really experiencing gaming itself. It's like, oh yeah, I'm playing stuff that's good, but I'm not really like an athlete. I'm not gonna just play one sport. Kind of
Right.
like I want to be able to play and enjoy a lot of different games because then I feel like, hey, everybody's playing all these other games and talking about it, really getting into it. People playing Vampire Survivor, people playing all this, and I feel like I don't even have enough time to try that stuff out. Because I just don't have that much time in the day. And this was the time finally to try to give kind of like that time. And I just kind of realized, I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed playing it. I stayed up late, but I enjoy playing these different games that everybody was having, a good time with. I enjoy kind of really expanding what I was doing. And I kind of just appreciate it. It was a really nice break, be able to kind of do that.
I feel you on the same level. Like, I didn't play as many games as you did and stuff like that, but just getting to the point where I could and High on Life felt really, really good. Where it's like, because I played a little bit yesterday, I was like, all right, I'm getting towards the end. Like, I'm almost there. So even though like, I'm back into school right now, it's like, cool, I could finish this game, you know what I mean? Because I'm already towards the end. And the other thing I did, like, it wasn't video game related, but I finally watched Made in Abyss, the first season. And like that was just nice to be able to like get out of work and be like, all right, what am I gonna do? Let's watch something. You know what I mean? Like, let's
Yeah.
do it. And I got to sit and watch it. I got to watch a documentary and like another show on HBO and stuff like that, which was really really nice to be like, all right, cool. I can like I have the time to just pick and choose and do what I want to do instead of just having to like force everything in. And so I'm really 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 looking forward to school finishing because I got to see like that light at the end of the tunnel of like, oh yeah, you'll have free time. You'll have time to relax. You'll have time to do things and stuff like that. And so it gets me super excited to do because my gaming backlog is insanely huge, but at the same time, like I want to play Stray and stuff like that. And hearing that it's only like about 6 hours, like cool, I can easily get through that game and no problem and stuff like that.
Like it
And
feels consumable, right?
yeah, like even because my buddy Will was really really talking big about Pentiment because
Mm.
he played through it and he's very adamant about one of our friends Sean to play and stuff like that because it's like a game that's right up his alley. And so as he's talking about it and stuff like that, and the biggest thing that held me back from that game was the kind of like replayability and stuff like that, because you make choices in it, and those choices create consequences and stuff like that. So like, oh no, I'm gonna have to go back and play it again and do like a different thing to change that. And he told me, he's like, no, dude, he's like, you need to play it. And he's like, and like, what I'm gonna suggest to you is when you play it, it's like, don't worry about the decisions you make. It's gonna be worth it in the long run. Like, just play the game as you want to play it. And
Mm.
I was like, that's like a huge pro tip because like for a person like me, whenever I know I have a game that have a lot of options and choices and stuff like that, it sometimes becomes too overwhelming for me, and I'm just like, oh no, did I do the right choice? Did I do the right thing? Like that happens to me in Persona a lot and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I go, oh no, like I missed my chance to like create this bond with this person or increase the bond of this person and this or that, and it kind of gets me a little like I guess anxiety and freaked out. I'm like, oh no, what are we gonna do? What am I gonna do? Not we, but
But what really kind of got me on this too is just I now realize how long something like 20 hours can be. Like I'm not
yeah,
sure if I really spend 20 hours or I just, I probably need to go back to it. But when I was or actually last night I was reading it, I saw played High on Life 9 days ago, played Beacon Pines 5 days ago, play Requiem 2 days ago. I realized, in that span, I finished one game, knocked out a small game, then knocked out a fairly larger game. Now I'm already starting another one, and like it within a 7 day time period. And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, this is good. Like I kind of getting the feel again of how long something's gonna be, and I'm making a decision based on like, hey, do I have time? And we talked about it before at the beginning of the podcast, what it means to be a gamer over 30, what it means
hmm
to still game around this time, still game when we have a lot of stuff going on and stuff. There are just times where even thinking about doing the podcast, like we got to make sure our lives are done with in order for us to do like this podcast today, because we have a lot of stuff going on even if it's Friday.
Yep.
But it is great to know that like, hey, there I can still give myself to gaming. I just need to plan it better. Like it's kind of like a diet, like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
it would probably sucks, right? And it's like, oh, I got to kind of be a little bit particular about it. But once you control your diet, you start seeing the changes happening in the long term way, stuff like that. Like I'll probably play Strangers of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins, because that game was 17 hours. And I can play that now because I realize how long 17 hours is. I know like, okay, I'm not gonna be on break, but I could probably finish this game on and off 2 to 3 weeks, after I kind of do everything else. And that's not bad because after that, I'll probably be ready for Forspoken when it comes out, and I'll just play that just to play it, you know.
I think another issue that happens between us, since as we're getting older and like into our 30s, and we have just an entire life in general that gets in the way of stuff like that, is sometimes gaming feels like a chore or a hassle instead of feeling like fun and comfortable. Where you're like, I want to play a game, but do I have the time to play the game? Do I have enough time to? Do I have to start this game? How long is this game gonna be? How, like, what am I gonna do? What are the choices? Do I
Yeah,
really want to jump into something new? And all these things like come into a factor, and you kind of get yourself in a rut where you kind of shield yourself from doing something that you love to do. And it's like, I love to play video games, so like you have to learn how to break that mold. And this seems like a good reason where it got to being like, hey, like I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. And it kind of goes in a similar pipeline that happened to me earlier of 2022. That seemed to happen to you, where it's like indie titles are really a good stepping stone to be able to like get games done, because a lot of like the AAA games nowadays are very big on making them 20, 30, 60, 70 hour games and stuff like that. And that's all cool and grand and that, but at the same time that kind of gets overwhelming for people like us who are so busy. And so when you get to do a 17-hour game, 10-hour game, 5-hour game, it's like, oh, yeah, this is what I love. This reminds me of why I love video games so much. This reminds me why I'm enjoying this so much and stuff like that. So I can see how this break really got that bug bitten in you in a good way.
and let me like hit on that because a lot of the stuff, like, it kind of got me a little bit inspired to do game development a little bit because I saw where it's like, you know what? Like, I know a lot of effort went into this, but could I do something this similar? When you play Requiem or a Playtale Requiem, it's not really crazy combat, but it really utilizes scarce resources and being able to make sure you're using those resources to actually just move. A lot of times, like there's a lot of stuff you got to find a way to get past the rats. You got to find a way to kind of get past enemies that every enemy mainly can kill you in 2 hits, and the bigger enemies literally will just slap you. So it's like you can't even be near enemies, and you have to find some way to fight them at a distance. And it's like, you know what? This is really just a solid mechanic. I got a slingshot and I know how to use it. That's basically the game right there. And you're trying to do your best to use it. And it's like, hey, you know what? I kind of want to see if I can implement something like this. Or I want to see if I could implement literally a straight line game where can I change the scenery and create a good enough story to where even going straight line seems interesting. Because I felt like that was like, you know what? You don't need, or at least I had to remind myself is there are some games that don't need to be solely heavy on the gameplay. They just, if you're going to go for a concept, you just need to go in on the concept. And I think that's kind of where I really enjoyed all of these games. And you know what? And I kind of really appreciated High on Life. That really kind of
Mm-hmm.
started me doing this because I realized I didn't really get tired of them talking and all the kind of back and forth and all that is because I know I wasn't going to be doing it for long. And it
Right.
didn't get to a point where it's like it was boring. You got the chance to meet a lot of different characters and stuff. But the game itself was just basically a first person shooter. At most, you get 4 or 5 guns, and the only upgrades are just to upgrade the kind of little perks on the gun, and you could do all this stuff. But really, like the game is really, really carried by the aesthetics, the voice acting, the story. Like, maybe not much of the story. Story's pretty simple too,
Yeah.
but it's mainly about like the people that you're involved with is what makes the game really fun. And being able to kind of complete that was nice. And me wanting to now be like, hey, I want more of this. I want to be able to expand this, you know, was really a big deal. And I think I kind of really appreciate that. And so yeah, like well, I was kind of after I was kind of playing that, it's like, hey, I wonder if I could do like the first person shooter like template in Unreal real quick and just add another gun just to say I accomplished something. Or can I, do like interaction, the quick time events, these are kind of weird things, but they're also really small. I was like, yeah, I had to start thinking about it. It's like some of the stuff, maybe I don't need to build a whole Pokemon ability system, then make that stuff work out, or maybe I don't need to do like a complex puzzle. Maybe I just need to see if I can even build an experience that can get somebody interested or be like, oh wow, this looks really good. And it's like, yeah, but you're just going a straight line. There's really nothing at the end. There's no boss or anything. You know,
Yeah.
I just thought about this is like, you know what? I never thought about just building a tech demo just to see if I could do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
No.
I get that. And like another cool thing that High Loft really, really did was like swap it between the guns and stuff like that. Like you get different parts of the story in general from like depending on what gun you have out and stuff like that, which I
Mhm.
think is like a cool and simple design that's something like, oh shoot, like that's really cool that they did, because like since since I let my son play the game and everything and he beat it before me, when I was going through one of the parts, he's like, oh, switch to this gun. And I was like, why? He's like, because he gives out better information than the other gun. It's like, all right, cool. So I switched to that gun, and sure enough, they know more about the story than the other gun did, and so I got to learn a little bit more and like get to make decisions that you can make in the game based on what the gun was telling me. And it's like, all right, cool, let's do that. And I mean, it's cool little things like that that you see. They're like, oh, like that's a really smart idea, but at the same time, it's not the hardest thing in the world. And it's fun and interactive, and I'm enjoying this piece of this game. So yeah, I can see where that freaking lights that fire in you.
Yeah, I will say in High on Life, you do have to use the other guns because you can get so used to using Kenny for
Yeah,
everything because it's like you're just so used to like it's just me and a gun, and honestly, like I could probably do everything with this gun. And the thing is, you can, but the other guns can do a way better job in a lot of aspects that
yeah,
maybe they're not like as reliable as Kenny, but like some of the bosses, I was using like the fast shooter a lot because I didn't realize, oh, if I get this thing to just fire a lot into one thing and just use the blast, it chunks off a lot of health, you
yeah.
know, and it's a little bit easier to multi spray into somebody, especially when you're having. I'm not sure if you fought the brothers or whatever yet,
Oh, wait, the three of
but
them. Yeah,
that was annoying. And trying to do that with Kenny, and I realized, yeah, it's kind of like playing on hard mode, trying to
yeah,
do it that way. It's doable, but then when I realized, oh, I could just unload on the one with the other gun and just be like, oh yeah, just and even if I miss a lot, I'm still hitting them for a lot. You're just like, oh yeah, no, this was a lot better. I need to remember to just try if another gun does the job better, you know.
yeah. That was me with for those brothers. I actually used the creature, the little like monster things, because like
Yeah.
it made it really easy for me to like just shoot a bunch of them out, like unload the clip of those guys. They attack. I would do it when they were all grouped up into one big one, and then
Mhm.
that way I just get like a full on attack for that part of the like the health bar, and then I would just switch to another gun, whether it was the shotgun light or Kenny, and just start doing
Mhm.
small damage implements like that. So I could have these little creature things doing just basic damage to it, and then I could add extra damage on top that way, which made it so
Yeah.
much easier for me to do it.
And a lot of times you don't even realize if the creature's actually doing damage half the time because he doesn't do a lot of damage. But I realized later on, it's like, oh yeah, but you could just have them all out and do whatever they need to do and switch to another gun, and
Yeah,
they're doing damage while you're using like your main shooter or whatever. It's just one of those things where like, hey, this is a really nice mechanic. Like this is something that's like, oh, this actually works out really well. I'm very surprised. And like I said, it's just like sometimes simplicity is a lot by itself. And so, like, again, it's just one of those things where it's like I was actually having fun, controlling myself and all that. It kind of makes me a little scared to take on big games because, like, when I looked at the games that I bought for Black Friday, outside of like the Mario Party stuff, I bought a lot of games that require commitment. And I think one of the reasons why I haven't played a lot of the games that I still own, because a lot of them do require a lot of commitment. And I find myself really hard to take myself away from the other games that are already taking that commitment and kind of being like, no, where are you going? Get back over here. It's like you still got to do your dailies, kind of thing. And it sucks. I was like, I had to put down the multiverse to do it and try to get better than that. But then I also, even with that game, I tried to go back on it on PlayStation, and I'm like, okay, now I understand why people probably more people are playing it on PlayStation. 'Cause every time I play with somebody against PlayStation, it just seems like they're on crack. Like it just seems like they're working on a different playing field. And then I realized, you know what? I'm more of a D-pad person. I mess up less on the it strains myself. Like I was really like I think I was like on the side of my middle finger was kind of purple for like the trigger, trying to like kind of hit that. I was all like, why? But it was just the way that I was holding it. I was using the Xbox controller for so long that getting back to the PlayStation controller was weird. But it was like
Yeah.
I wasn't accidentally shooting out a grappling hook, or I wasn't doing something weird because I didn't like accidentally like move the axle to that one position and make it do the other thing. I was like, okay, I can see why. And there were just some stuff that I was able to do a lot easier. There was something times I was able to catch opponents better. It was just the fact that I just tried it on a different platform again, just to say, yeah, well, I haven't played it on the PlayStation 5. And honestly, I didn't turn on the PlayStation 5 till like Stray. I was like, hey, I did get Stray. Let me go back to it. I didn't even try multiverse on it. And I was like, oh, this is different. But I still got to put it down because if not, I'll just go back to the same thing. I'm not going to be able to play a new experience game if I do this. So while it did help out kind of explore a little bit, it's also one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, but I still was kind of getting into that. Oh, like about to dive into a little bit more. Let me step back. Let me jump into another title and stuff. And that's kind of what pushed me to playing Stray. I was like, this is a really quick game. I have some fun with it, and then I'll look for the next one.
That good old little kitty.
I don't know. It's fun. Like I mean, this is why I tell you to get a PlayStation. But it's just one of those things where okay, I can see it. Like maybe some people I can see like it was probably that, and I think that was the point I was trying to make earlier. It's the fact that it probably ended up on Game of the Year mainly because it was a very consumable game. And you feel like you got the full experience of it. As far as what the game looks like, it looks fantastic. It looks like a lot of small details were put into the world. Looks like there was a lot of stuff that was kind of in there. You got to see a lot of stuff. I ended up getting the Govee Dream View TV stuff. My mom kind of just bought it for me randomly, and I ended
Nice.
up putting it on the home theater screen. And it was like, oh, I had it all set up because I already had lights kind of going on, and I was seeing the lights just change different colors. I was going to different areas because it's really a bright color game even if it is mostly in the dark, all the LED lights really kind of shine off. And it was, just lighting up my like the home theater in different colors and stuff. When I went into like an alley and it was dark, it was kind of like white in this case and kind of like dark blues and stuff. And then when I turn on to like a bright red LED light, it looked like the Sith just came out of nowhere. It was just one of those things. Like, oh, okay, this is a nice experience. I do appreciate this a little bit.
Those those lights make a huge difference when it comes to like gaming and stuff like that. They help you feel a little bit more immersed, and your eyes can focus a little bit better on the screen for some reason.
They do. It kind of stops my really dark room from being as dark, which I
Hmm.
kind of like it when there's lights in the right place, not just having light
Anywhere.
everywhere. But it definitely was a nice experience to kind of go through stuff and really kind of see it. I did find out some issues with those kind of lights and stuff like that. I think the camera and stuff can pick up the wrong things. Like I have a
Yeah.
lot more lights in the room, and I realized the way that it does stuff in order can really screw up like the order of how because if it's like your controller, it can really screw up everything. I had like the partition lights right underneath the TV.
Okay.
And what happens is the TV thing goes first and it does its lights and it's correct. My side lights kind of turn on and those are correct because they're just shining what the TV tells it. But when the other lights shine right underneath it,
It
the
blinds it.
camera is catching those lights. So it changes to those lights. So it's telling the other lights to change to that light. And so now that light's just staying that color because it's saying, well, the TV's telling me to do that.
Yeah.
So I did have to make some changes, or else I was just looking at red. For some reason, it just loved red. It just stayed on red. So when I turned it off, it was like, oh, okay, we can stop looking at red now. So I had to do some changes, but it was still nice. It was still nice to kind of see the room in like in a different light, so to speak.
Well, especially with a game like that too. Like, I don't know if you've done it yet either, but they're not great for like live action stuff and everything. So if you have a game that's very brown or stuff like that, or just like watching regular TV and stuff like that, they kind of don't do well for anything like that. But if you're like watching anime, it is fantastic for anime. You know what I mean? It makes it feel really really nice.
You
Watching
know what? It is true.
Cyberpunk Edge Runners on that was super really cool to see with that with
Yeah.
those lights.
It is really nice. And yeah, I can see because a lot of LED lights, I don't think can do brown. Brown is just one of those colors that you really rarely
Yeah,
see on LED light. And I just think it's just what you need to do to get to that color. I just think it's really hard. But really, you don't really care. Like it more like it just be orange. That's gonna be the next thing, and that
yeah,
works out really nice. But like when you got to like something that was really green, like it did change to like a nice pleasant green, or
oh
something
yeah,
blue, change it off to blue and stuff like that. So yeah, so when it's very vibrant, and I do like that the thing has game mode and movie mode to kind of switch between the two. So that actually worked out pretty nice. And then the sound effects make the lights kind of blink. That can be annoying if you're playing a shooter.
yeah.
But when it's just kind of like a lot of just other noise and it's not as like it's not firing off like a machine gun kind of thing. It's not like it's not really trying to blind you, but it's nice. It really is. Um one of the things I could say though is like setting up the room and actually having a space to game too does make a difference.
Yep.
I will say, if you have like I know a lot of people, especially when we're younger, our room was our bedroom. It wasn't we don't really have a tent or we don't have an extra room. Some do, I seen a lot of my friends who, I have one guy who has a movie theater in his basement, basically. And, his kids are having the time of their life. They had a birthday party down
Nice.
and they can fit like 10 people in their movie theater. So it was like this is a big thing. So you can do a lot of big gaming and stuff and all that. So
That's cool.
unfortunately, me and you didn't enroll like that in El Paso.
No.
But everybody has their own room, but sometimes changing your room to also enjoy gaming a lot makes a difference. And I think for me, that room's completely black outside of the carpet and like the white railing and stuff. So the lights are the only thing that I really want on in order of that. And I realized if I don't have lights, I actually kind of get tired pretty easily. Like, cause it's like when the
It's
lights
just
only
like,
well, because like the TV itself's on OLED, so there's no backlight. So the
yeah.
blacks are black. The only lights or colors are what's supposed to be colored. And so I realized I was like, maybe it does feel like 2 a.m. right now. Jesus Christ. I did ended up like, oh man, I gotta turn on the light. Cause then especially during the day, because that room doesn't have any mirrors. I'm not mirrors, windows. So during the day when it's black,
Mm,
you're just kind of like,
you could get lost.
I was like, oh, now it's 2 p.m. It's like, what am I doing? So adding some more lights and stuff, kind of giving the ambience does make a difference. It does help enjoy the game a little more.
Do you use like a main light in general, or do you just kind of keep that off all the time?
I managed to keep that off. I have Philips Hue lights with it, so I could do stuff with it. But I've been looking at the Govee route for a lot of stuff. That the idea is to have more LED strips on the side, and that be the entire lighting setup. Right now, how I have it, when I open the door, all the LED lights turn on. I have a motion thing that works in that room now. So once the doors open, all of it goes into the rainbow, and you just kind of like see like kind of like a step build up kind of thing going on. That's what I have like as far as like the aesthetic right now. And then when I close the door, those lights turn off. So
Okay.
those are the only lights that really turn on and stuff. Quite honestly, I probably would remove the light entirely and use that to like do some other stuff. Probably like put like if I wanted to do the star ceiling and stuff, that's probably where I might kind of do some stuff around that aspect. Like repurpose those wires. Um But as right now, like yeah, I hardly ever because it's like it's weird. It's a weird light. Like as outside of like doing actually the Philips Hue change colors in there, it's like yeah, it just has like that daylight color and stuff, and it doesn't really work well with the black. So
No, yeah, even for sure. Even like here in this room, like I have my basic lights, are just regular lights, but 9 times out of 10, other than for this podcast, I usually don't even have them on. I just have like my backlight like on a usually like two different color tone set. Then I
mhm,
have like some they're not Christmas lights, but they're Halloween lights,
yeah.
and they go around the room and stuff like that. Then I have my old Hue lights strip under my desk, but I'm probably gonna replace those with the strip you got me
Mhm.
with the Gobi ones and stuff like that. And so it's just a matter of like I want to switch out these lights to Hue lights or maybe even Gobi lights, so that way I could do the color changing ones instead. And
Yeah.
that because like other than having to do schoolwork, I don't like using these type of lights for anything.
hmm Yeah, and the way that I call those lights now, I call that the cleaning light. Like when I need to actually vacuum, because like I
Yeah.
try to do like a movie theater like is like when you're actually having to clean and stuff like that. Okay, I'll turn on that light so I can actually see and
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That's so I deem that the cleaning light, and then everything else is like showtime light and or like pre-show lights stuff. I'm gonna try and automate the entire room a little bit more. I just found some quick hacks at work, but the room's nowhere near done. Right now, it's just like I just have the LED strips like over there, but I haven't peeled them off because it's like, well, I got the railing and I need a saw because I want to cut the railings and stuff like that, and I still need like soundproofing and all that. So we're always playing around with ideas in that room. But it's just one of the things where it's like it makes a lot of difference when you actually work as a mom. When you like change your room to do stuff, or like how I change this room to do content. Like I do a lot of work in this room, and I have particular lights. Like I have this studio light to make this look good because I like how this looks on camera. But I'm not using this when I'm actually trying to do work at all. Like
Right.
it's like turns off, but I do like having this light shine in the background and then I can see everything. I don't need to really turn on a lot of lights. I save a lot of electricity. I'll tell you that much. Like there's
Me
not a
too.
lot of things like drawing power. And these don't draw as much power as you think.
It's one of those things where like I don't know if you had this conversation with your dad like I did, or I had to explain to him. He's like, "Oh, you're wasting so much electricity." I was like, "Well, no, I'm not, because I don't have most of it on, and the ones I do have on are not very bright, and they use hardly any electricity in general." And so I'm like chilling in like a perfectly good viewing aspect, and at the same time, it sets me in the right move to what game I want to play or if I want to watch something. You know what I mean? It's like it's nice. He's like, "No, you're wasting electricity." I was like, "That's not how it works anymore."
Yeah. I mean, it's one like we saved so much electricity the last 2 months. I owed more money because
What the?
I didn't hit the minimum amount. So if you live in Texas, Texas is weird because in El Paso, there's only one electric company. So
Yeah.
everybody buys whatever El Paso Electric says. Like if they say it's 10 cents a kilowatt hour, it's 10 cents a kilowatt hour for everybody. There's no negotiation. Dallas, there's about 100,000, different electric companies or people who are front for the electric companies. And like, hey, we're just like the management and we just found a way to work the deals out, but you're paying us, but they're doing the work kind of thing.
Right.
And so what ours does is, okay, if I use over 1,000 kilowatt hours, it actually discounts my bill $100.
Okay.
If I stay between that 1,000 and 2,000 kilowatt hour benchmark, then I don't get like charged any extra money or I get, extra more money or whatever. So for the last 2 months, I didn't hit 1,000 kilowatt hours. So I had to pay that $100, every time. And I was like, God damn it. It's like it's just in the summer I had to be careful because it's like I don't know what's running, but I just feel like the electric companies are just kind of siphoning out electricity. Like, oh yeah, you did run this. Trust me. Trust me, you did use all this electricity. I'm like, I don't think I did. I I wasn't even home for some of these days. And you're talking about I spent no, I think you're lying. Once you have a smart thermostat, it's a lot easier to kind of mitigate stuff or mitigate problems.
Right.
oh, it's too hot. I was like, well, I mean, it's not bad. You just got to get used to this temperature, and then it's not a big deal. My parents had a hard time when they were here, but whatever, right? But it was just one of those things where it's like, oh wow, like I got to look, and I think last week I used only 240, and I'm like, oh, I might actually be on track to hit 1,000 kilowatts. That'd be nice. I don't have to owe money, and because like last month I did 858. I'm like, I saved so much electricity. It was, and I'm like, I had 3 Christmas trees. I'm running the heater. I got more LED lights than I know what to deal with.
And a
I,
2-story house too, right?
yeah, and I got like 3 computers, like desktops, running a home server, and somehow I still was way under the mark. And it's like, oh, hey, you didn't make it. Pay me. Give me that money.
Damn it.
So there are times where it's like, oh, I did everything right and I saved a ton of money. But these are like the times where I kind of make up that difference. So I'll probably change the electric plan kind of going forward and stuff. Because now that I've been through a summer and a winter, like I'm like, okay, I think I know how to work with this. Or I'll just go with one of those companies. Like, you know what? I'll pay a lot for like the daily, but it's just the one rate. Like they'll flux
Yeah.
because fluctuating rates are also a nightmare because sometimes they'll be like, oh, you passed 1,000 kilowatts. So now we're going to charge you technically 18 cents, but we're still putting it as an average of 9. And it's like, wait a minute, that's a jump. It's like, that's a big jump. Electricity in Texas is weird, especially in the bigger cities. Like I know a lot of other cities don't really have to deal with that, but here it's like this is where capitalism kind of goes a little bit too insane, so too crazy. Like too many choices, and even I'll go to a website and look at like the two of the same plans from the same company, but these two different websites have it for different price. And it's like, oh, I just got to learn to sometimes go to the third link in Google, sometimes to save me a shit ton of money. It's like,
Yeah.
that's just what I have to do now. Like, and these are the things you do when you're older. It's like, this is why I don't have time for gaming.
Yeah, for reals, you're looking up fucking rates for electricity. That is your
Bruh.
game.
Yeah, I'm looking at how to save money. I even got one of those kilowatt like plugs to see how
Yeah.
much. I know when in the apartment, man, I was trying to figure out what were they smoking because they were like, "Hey, used up 1,700 kilowatt hours," and it's like, "You're smoking from what? It's a 3 bedroom apartment. Where is that coming from? I only have one air conditioning unit, and ain't gone if that thing works, right? It's like I don't have enough for you to talk about like I'm spending, like big family electricity."
Right.
Even I'm looking at my parents. My parents have a pool and all other kind of stuff, and they weren't hitting the numbers I was hitting. I was like, no, there's something wrong. Either new homes are just just way built better, or I just feel that I got siphoned. I feel like somebody was using my electricity. Just they were able to kind of cross some wires into the other apartment, and they're just kind of like, oh yeah, everybody plug it up to this outlet in particular right here.
I bet you anything. That's just like the super whoever of the apartment just accidentally did that without even realizing it. That's probably what happened.
They did have to charge my apartment complex electricity because they were you when we had like some it was like the big winter thing that happened,
Yeah.
and everything kind of went south, like literally went south.
Yeah.
And they were using my electricity to fix a lot of the stuff where it was like the vacuuming. They were like, oh, just run this thing for 4 days, straight in the room to kind of keep the humidity down and like dry stuff out. Oh, do all this, and then we're gonna use kind of like this to kind of get some other stuff out the way. And they were doing it for days, and it's like, yo, there's a lot of electricity. Like
Yeah.
these are like industrial like things running. Y'all paying for this, right? It's like, well, why would we? And it's like, what do you mean, why would you? It's like, first of all, I didn't bring the storm with me, so that's not my fault entirely. But
It's
Like,
literally a natural disaster.
so like y'all didn't even need to have to dry out the carpet. Y'all was supposed to take out the carpet. The carpet is done. It can't go
Dang,
back to
yeah.
normal anymore. You got to replace the carpet. But I'm getting a little bit sidetracked. But it was just one of those things where it's like I did have to like go in there and they did kind of reimburse us with electricity. So it worked out. But it was one of those things I was all like, mm-mm, you ain't doing that to me. Like, do you know how much electricity cost me? So,
So going forward, like you had this break that's pretty much at the end of it, right?
mhm.
And stuff like that. So what's your plan now for games having to go back into your work schedule and stuff like that, and going back into your work routine for the week and everything? And now that you have this like kind of new experience, like oh no, I really like games. I want to do some more with it, whether it's playing it or even trying to create some of your own. Do you have a plan of action to try and fit it in a way?
Kind of in a way. I think what is happening now is I'm more equipped. At first, when you're young, you're not realizing how much games can take your time. There are some times where it seems like you're playing games a lot. Sometimes it really just the game is just a lot. Like if you got one game and it took you 5 months to play that, that just seems that seems long for something. No game should last 5 months, but when I notice like if you're looking at it from the outside, if I'm playing like that game a lot in a single week, then it looks like that's all I'm doing, right? Um when you're older though, you have to try and learn that there are like how long a game actually takes in order to complete and how long you should be spending time playing that game. And I think I'm still going to kind of continue what I'm doing. There are a lot of games I want to try out. There's some games I want to play, but like I was really wanting to play Octopath Traveler, and I was like, I have that game. The second game's out, and it seemed like a game that I could really, really play. But I'm at the point where I'm like, man, I'm kind of afraid because I brought up that game and it was like, oh yeah, no, there's no way that I could play this right now. Or at least in the break. Like in the break, I probably would have more time if I played it for the entire break. But then it's
Right.
like it kind of lose out and I kind of go back to it. And I think that's the reason why like I kind of drop out at the end of RPGs because I spend so much time like in those first 2 weeks with them or whatever. So I will continue to do that. Like Final Fantasy 16 will definitely be time for that. But I think one of the things I think that really helped long, short really helped out. Having games with like various different times to complete. Um, ti- um, there's some things I have to do. Like I have to play it later in the night. I can't play during the day. 9 to 5. Got to get my work, and sometimes I work till 7 o'clock my time. So there's always gonna be time I gotta do it later. But
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some things where I know like I have to kind of give up longer term games. I think I'm definitely not playing any gotcha games. Any others or any others. Like I'm dead. Like I'm back and forth about getting channels, back and forth about some other ones. I think for my health and gaming or for my diet, just can't touch them. And it's not even the money; it's the fact that it literally prevents you from playing more games.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest things that I think I lost in the last year. And I'd probably say 2021 too, because I've been playing Epic 7 for like maybe 2, 3 years now. And I kind of realized like, hey, outside of like the big heavy titles, how much gaming have I done? Like the breadth of it rather than the depth of it. And I think I just really been really hard depth gaming and not breadth gaming. So that's gonna be the biggest thing. It's intervals, trying out some games. I'm probably it'd be one of those things where I start newer projects, and really kind of get into it, rather than kind of go back to my collection because it sucks. I think when I get a Steam Deck, I'll have a little bit more opportunity to play a lot of the games I've really been putting on the bench on the computer. Can I also try one thing I also try not doing is playing any of the games on the computer. It wasn't that really hard for me before, but I was playing like a lot of the games I was really playing on like my computer. It's like I was playing multiverses on the computer. I was playing the games with coworkers on the computer. And I wasn't really using my consoles for that. it's nice to step away from like all this and go into a room that's built for gaming and
Okay.
really kind of in it makes me or at least helps me enjoy it even more because I'm surrounded by this is what I'm going to do, and kind of separate it. And it was also a better experience outside of like the stuff I said with Requiem. I really didn't have a lot of issues. I didn't really have a lot of like games kind of breaking or stuff really kind of, really being a problem and stuff. And I got away from doing other things because right now, as I'm talking to you, I got 12 tabs open because I'm planning a trip. I'm trying to do some finance stuff. I got some receipts over here that I'm trying to have to organize. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I might just dive into the wrong thing. And also, another thing that I have to realize it does take a lot of my time is YouTube. YouTube takes a lot of time because
Yeah.
once you do find a creator, we at the pre-show we talked about CoffeeZilla. Once you find somebody that has content, I mean, you're just going. Me and Laura will just look and be downstairs watching all kinds of stuff. We're just so focused on watching like the next video, watching another video. Just kind of why like with anime, I just stay up with the seasons because if I fall off, I have to like consume all that and I have to stop doing other stuff to like catch up. So just watching it like like the episodes day by day helps a lot. I don't do that with Gundam because I actually enjoy just watching Gundam straight. But like other animes, like yeah, no, like it can't. These are the Friday ones. There's 3 shows, knocked them out. Now we're kind of really done with that. Like we're not. I'm not having to search for more anime because
Right.
like I'm already caught up. I was like, I just wait till tomorrow. So those are the things that I'm definitely trying, like, are definitely doing that. I feel like it really helped out the most.
I feel you. I I think my biggest thing now heading forward once I'm done with school is just being able to have more time to myself to play games. And the only thing at that point now is trying to not overwhelm myself by what to play and when to play and how long it's going to take for me to play and stuff like that. And just kind of go dive into it and stuff like that. Like, I have High Life I'm going to beat soon. I'm going to get back into Pokemon. And then I think I want to start The Last of Us again and finally beat it.
Hmm.
Like, those are like, that's what kind of helps me out to like keep myself on track when I want to keep up with games or play with games that I want to play or I've missed out on in sense, is I try and like pick 2 to 3 of them that I'm gonna stick with and then just play between the 3. That way, in case it is like a long game, I can take a break from it, jump to another game, and then come back to it, and then do me vice versa stuff like that. It gives me a nice like palate cleanser because they're all different types of games. So it's like, okay, cool. This feels nice to do because I'm doing this. This feels nice to do because this mechanic is different in this game. So it helps me to wire my brain and jump around and stuff like that. I don't know if that's like a ADHD thing or anything like that, or if it's just like the way like things just work with for me and stuff like that. Where it's like, all right, this feels comfortable. I may be doing multiple things at once, but it feels a lot better that way for me, and I feel more at ease than trying to stick with just one game.
And you know what? I just while you were talking about Last of Us and going back and finishing it, I actually just looked up how long it takes to beat the game. I didn't realize it was only 15 hours to
Oh,
really just
sweet.
kind of play and just beat it. 22 is the max for 100% completion. Like Requiem, the game I just played, is longer than this game. And I
Yeah,
remember playing The Last of Us 1 and 2. 2 felt like it was a long time.
I think
But
2 for sure was like double the numbers, like 30 hours. I think.
yeah, if I were to kind of look at that, along with take that, so that one was 24,
Yeah,
42 for 100% completion. And so yeah, it is a lot bigger game and stuff. But I think I felt it more because of all the stuff that was kind of happening. I felt like playing 2 stories or 2 perspectives is kind of adds a lot of beef to the game. And the first game is you're always with the same people, like you're playing the one same character, blah blah blah. But that's a very consumable game, and it's consumable enough to leave a really good impression on people who do get to play it.
yeah,
I do like the aspect of like, okay, maybe this is a trend. Maybe the games that are really hitting off with people are games that are making sure, and I don't want to say respect people's time because I think all games respect people's time as long as they're going to give it content, that's actually worth it. But I think when they realize that sometimes, again, less is more, can I do it in a concise way? I think adding experience time on top of like time it is to really kind of understand the story is what really sells the best. And I think I'm seeing this pattern a little bit. Now, granted, the two big games that were pretty much were game of the year winners or contenders really was God of War and Elden Ring, and those were long games. But those games have endings still. Like there's at a point you can't do anymore with Elden Ring. There isn't really going to be more content or whatever. Maybe I haven't played it, so I can't really sign off on that statement. But I think after a while, you can only do so much in Elden Ring where you'd be like, I think I got it. I killed God. I'm thinking I'm good. It's like, and then you play God of War. Hey, yeah, I killed God. I think I'm good. I think I killed God and I spend time with my son. It's all works out. You can only. I think there's a period to that sentence that you can get to at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of brings the thing that like I saw the comment in the chat where by Robert Gaines where it's like this is why retro games they're easier to consume, and like that's kind of where I think a lot of indie games hit that kind of spot because they kind of dwell from like the ideas of retro games stuff like that, put their own spin on it, do something new with it. But it's the same idea where it's just like I could play this game, go in, out, and I'm done with it, and they're not trying to make this gigantic big open world area or just this gigantic game where there's so much to do and stuff like that. It's like we're here to respect the time for ourselves as a developer because there's only maybe 1 to 10 of us at a time working on this team. So let's
Mhm.
just make a good, concise game, and as long as you make it good and put a good mechanic in it, it's gonna have you going back to it over and over. Like you are gonna have success that way because people love games that they can just go in and out with real quick in a sense, compared
Mhm.
to be because you hear more often than not, especially like with the amount of like gaming podcasts I consume and stuff like that, or just in general gaming news. More of the time, you always hear just like, "Oh, I fell off of it after like 10 hours," or "I fell off of it after like 15 hours," like, or "Oh, I really couldn't get into it because like the first 3 hours like were really really slow and this and that." And it's like, yeah, because like you're doing all this time that these people for these big games did, but that's not what you want. You're looking for that catch, that catch in the game is going to keep you going that you really, really like and do and stuff like that. And that's really what like a lot of the retro games did really well. It's like they had a great mechanic, and then they went, all right, we're going to go with this camera and just create like a quick game out of it because this is what we do to create at the time, and it worked. Like my favorite game of all time is Super Metroid, and I still go back to that game almost every year, whether even if I beat it every time or I just put some hours into it, just because it's just the mechanic of it is just so fun. It's so nice. It feels so good, and it just like hits that spot and like that euphoria of like, oh yes, yes, this is nice.
Mhm.
And with a lot of bigger games, I have the opposite effect where it just I try to find that euphoria, and once I find it, sometimes it's either too late or it's too early, and then I just lose interest.
And you know what? So you kind of hit back on kind of like those games because like Metroidvania stuff games are a lot too. While I'm a person who does love story, and I think that carries and allows stuff to be more memorable, because I want the main character to be more memorable. Like you do want to relate to a character, not because you made the character the way that you wanted, but it's just you understand why the character doing what they're doing. There are games where it's like, sometimes people just want that removed because for them to enjoy the game, they need the fluff taken out. They just need like, okay, you're here to do this. Just go do it. Like, okay, this is what I want. I don't want to really spend time. I don't want to spend 20 minutes on a cutscene, stuff like that. Like, I know there are some people that Requiem would have been a terrible game for because there wasn't a lot of action in some cases. Some cases, it was more building the relationship between you, the older sister, and your brother, the young boy, who are you are trying to protect and trying to make sure that he has a good time. And so there's some stuff in the like when you're in the city that you're just looking at how things are peaceful and nice before it all goes downhill from there. It's like some people would have been like, ah, Man, I really don't care for this. This could have been like 3 lines. This could have been an email. This could have been, all this other stuff. Let's get back to, hitting people with, a slingshot and like burning rats. I don't know. Like, well, let's get back to the action part. And you understand that, there's just some games that I feel like they deliver that. And I think the little games end up being shorter, a little more consumable, really fun to play. And I think I like that. And I think the thing that I probably will say to most people is to see where you are in that kind of aspect, because that's where you can get the most out of gaming. There are just some people who are gameplay is everything, some people who are story is everything, and some people could be in the middle, but they always swing a little bit more to one way or the other. And I think you're going to get the most out of gaming if you find your corner a little bit more, because then you can actually explore games that are similar and stuff and be like, oh, I didn't know this game existed. Or, oh, I was trying to follow the trend. I completely skipped over this type of game that was actually similar to an old game that I really liked. It's like you really like Mega Man, you might like more Mega Man-ish games or a game, because like High Life has some kind of Mega Man-ish kind of
Yeah.
like, right? Because all the enemies were like, or all the bosses were like very Metromania. Like they had their quirk, they did the same attacks. Some of them kind of did other stuff, and you just had to utilize what you built up to that point in order to beat them. It's like that
And
you
then you
saw a
get their
lot of.
weapon at the end and get to use it in
Mhm.
a sense.
So you realize, oh, hey, there's some commonality in games, and sometimes just chasing those commonalities really helps out. And I was kind of looking at Tales of Arise because I was thinking about like an RPG that I feel like I did have.
Oh, did we lose you? He might be frozen. Uh oh. Hi, everyone. He might be gone. I wonder if his internet pooped out. Let's see if I can message him real quick. Camera went out. Let's see. That's great. That's a perfect shot when he got stuck right there. Actually, I should screenshot that. Screenshotted. But I'll go along for. Oh yeah, that's it. His internet's out. All right, guys. It's just a me show. We're gonna keep it going here, but we'll keep it going. I'll see if he gets back into it or not. It's all good. But the one thing I like to say is, you're the best way to do it is it's the best thing to do. Honestly, is trying to find the time to fit gaming into your life, and trying to make it not a chore is what makes it really, really, really hard to do. Because when you're doing these things and stuff like that, um, you just don't want it to like go and die out and stuff like that and everything. Oh, he's telling me the stream's died. Hold on, let him know I'm still live. And then like, it's one of those things I'm super super. This is gonna be a me thing at this moment and stuff like that. Where it's like, man, I'm literally at the end right now. I have the week left and 3 weeks left of school, and then I am done. And after that, like, I got to find my love in games this past year in 2022. One, from starting this podcast with DuShaun, which I'm very thankful for, but two, for also to really get in there and like get this break I had with it. And it's like, I am ready for these games to hit me, for me to hit these games really, really hard and have a great time with it. That is for sure.
Okay.
Are you back?
I think I am back. Everything still says it's not working, but well, we'll try my best. It's more because I can't really see the stuff that happened. So everything seems like it's kind of off. But it looks like, okay, it looks like I'm back on the thing. Um,
Yeah, you're back on the feed and everything.
like I had a point, and my internet said maybe you just need to stop talking for a minute. Take a breath, drink some Sprite, which
Like,
I'm
drink
always
the Sprite. You're like, oh man, I had a really good point. He's like, I was on a roll.
Mhm. All right.
The curse of the internet gods.
Yeah, that's something I gotta go figure out. That's the personal thing. We gotta look at that because it's like I know the internet
Uh,
has been kind of shoddy for me for the last few days.
does it just drop or like the whole thing at the house shuts off?
I think it's ATT shenanigans.
Oh
That
no.
I need to go figure out because I sometimes like I was thinking it was my router, the new one that I got. And I was kind of getting mad at that, but
Yeah.
like when I know when my phone straight up says, "Hey, then AT&T, blah blah blah," I don't know where I'm at, kind of stuff, and it's like, "Oh, AT&T, strike again."
Dang, that sucks.
So I'm back.
You're back.
I don't know what I was talking about, but I'm definitely back.
You're good. We'll start something new. I kept it alive. I just pretty much talked about being really, really excited to actually play games into the future and that trying to find your ways to make sure you have time for games and to try and not make it a chore. Because I think that's where the biggest downfall came and how I was talking about while you were gone, how like I got to find my love for video games again this past year from playing with them in general and stuff like that, and from also like doing this podcast with you and stuff like that. It, like really got to ignite that fire of my love for video games underneath me and be like, okay, yeah, like this is my jam, this is my go-to, this is my me time, my relaxed time and stuff like that. And not
Mhm.
even like me time where it's like just me because I love playing video games with other people. Like I love playing video games with my partner and stuff like that. It's one of the funnest things to do. You know what I mean? So, but it's nice finding that itch again and be like, oh shoot, heck yeah, let's play some games. Let's do it.
You know what? There's one thing I do want to add to that. Because like it's really important. Kind of shout out to my wife because she kind of understood without actually asking me kind of what I was doing and kind of allowed me to play a little bit games, a little bit extra than what I normally was doing. Because definitely like I was definitely doing when everybody was asleep, but I probably start a little bit earlier. Like I was supposed to be like off, so I didn't want to do anything. I was like, okay,
Right.
let me actually wake up and play games during the day. But while I was helping like my family and stuff, like it wasn't much of like a possibility sometimes. And sometimes, you just want to be with family and stuff like that and stuff. But there were other times where I was really considering like, man, if I really brought my Xbox controller, I could at least done Game Pass. That was one of those. It's like when I was like definitely when I was playing Beacon Pines, I was like, I could finish this game if I just had an Xbox controller. Why does it not support touch controls? Like it was just one of those things. Like, damn it. Um,
You gotta get
but
yourself like a Kishi or like a
well,
backbone
I have it.
controller.
But it's like of course, I don't have it in my back pocket, right? This was the time to like whip that stuff out and be like, yes, this is why I bought you for it. I still need to get the backbone too, but like it was just one of those things where it's like, oh, this was the perfect time to do kind of all this, and I dropped the ball. Which is, it was pretty funny. But it was just the fact that, like she kind of understood it. She understood that like I was definitely playing a lot more games than normal and kind of gave me time, we even talked about it, but because there are some times where it's like, I just can't play games. And I know there's times where she wants, well, let's sit down, let's watch TV, let's kind of be together and all that. And there are just some times where it's great to have a partner that kind of understands that, hey, this is my hobby. Some cases could be your life, could be your life work, but you want to spend time playing games. And sometimes you
Hmm.
need a little bit more than 30 minutes. Like it's, you're not trying to let me sneak in a task, whatever. It's like you need time to express yourself in the game, or it at least feel like you're expressing what the game is trying to show you or experience. I think experience is a better word.
Experience, yeah, for sure, man. That's a pro tip for anyone else out there who's around our age or older. Hopefully, you find a partner who understands that. Because when you have a significant other who doesn't understand that, you get almost no game time, and even then, sometimes it leads to arguments because they get jealous that you're spending other time with people online than you are just with them, even though you're spending all the time with them. So, yeah, it's one of those things that like kind of one of the things I went into going into the relationship I'm in now. It was kind of like things that I brought up to the forefront. It's like, hey, like my main thing is like video games. I'm like, oh yeah, you like to play games? I was like, no, I like like games. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, I have the Xbox, I have the PlayStation, I have a Switch, I have my PC, and this and that. And they're like, oh, I was like, yeah, like they're like my favorite hobby to do, my favorite pastime and stuff like that. And I think the coolest thing with my partner is like she's always liked games and stuff like that, which is dope. But like she's been really open to trying out games and making efforts and stuff like that. And it's
Mhm.
like it's cool because even if she doesn't like it, like if it makes you feel really good when like your significant other goes, okay, well I'll try this out, and even if they don't like it, like okay, cool. Hey, at least we got to play like an hour of it, and I appreciate that you did that because I mean that's the whole point of a relationship. You kind of give and get and find a medium to find these like balances with each other and stuff like that.
It definitely means a lot. And it is something one of those things that's harder because not everybody, as in our age, has the luxury of having a partner that kind of understands that kind of thing. Like a lot of them, a lot of times, even as we grow up, but people didn't want to they don't want you playing games. Like you could be doing something else, could be making money, could be doing all this other stuff, and it's like, well, I could, but I also like to be happy. And this is kind of one of my guaranteed happy things without taking drugs. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like doing this is still a lot better than anything else that I've seen people in my life do to kind of have fun and stuff. And like Laura's been kind of very understanding of a lot of that and allowed me to kind of have the big room where I could just game and stuff because that's definitely much as I was pushing for it, like the home that we got and stuff like that. One of the requirements was I was really trying to get that room. Like I really wanted a separate room. If I were to do it downstairs all the time, then we'd be permanently stitched to those couches if I had everything working on that. And there are just sometimes where it's like, yeah, I don't think I need to be bringing the game stuff to the family area as much. If I have
Right.
the opportunity to separate it, I think we will. And then that room allows us to also watch movies in a different way too. I'm not sure if you got a chance to see the whole Wednesday Netflix series and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Um, Watching it on the NVIDIA Shield is a way different experience than just watching it like regularly. Especially like once you have a setup and you start just hearing stuff, I was like, there's nothing really I should be hearing, but I'm hearing a lot. And there's a lot of stuff kind of popping off. And sometimes I really encourage her to be like, hey, I know the couch sucks up there. But we get this, we're only gonna watch this movie once. Why not watch it in the movie theater where I have
Oh yeah.
the stuff at, right?
I'm,
So
I'm the same way with the because like I don't have like the best setup of that, but I have my OLED TV and I have my soundbar compared to my partner's just like older 4K TV, and she'd be like, "Oh, you want to watch this?" I was like, "I do." I was like, "But we're gonna have to watch it at my house." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "Cause it's just gonna look better." Like I would not watch Dune unless I was watching it on my TV. She's like, "Why?" I was like, "Cause the cinematography in that movie is just absolutely stunning, and seeing it on an OLED screen, it's just fantastic. Like it just feels so good and looks so good, and it's so crisp and like as dumb as it sounds, and I know it, but as a gamer, everyone else will understand this. Like seeing like the little pixels and stuff of the sand in the ground and stuff like that because of the OLED screen, like it just oh man, it just feels so good to my eyes and just so like you see all the details these people put into this movie and vice versa you do in certain games. It's just like oh man, like yes, this is why this is why I created this or I got this item.
you know what? Like watching stuff on Netflix on an OLED screen and all that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Some of that because Netflix is like, I need all recorded content to be done on a red camera. I needed to have all this kind of cinematography. I'm not paying this amount of money to be shot on, 35 millimeter film. Like it needs to be past what is expected of us. And when I was watching, like we did watch most of Wednesday downstairs because it was also one of those things where like you do want to be comfortable, you want to watch something, and sometimes
Yeah.
you just want to change it too and just watching this whatever, right? But when we got to watch it upstairs, she kept saying like, "Wow, like I didn't really realize, the whole like still go man, all those pores, like you could definitely tell the like this chick had makeup caked on
Yeah.
Like literally, you could cut the screen in half, and you just see the layers pop up. Like you just see like how much like detail it was in a lot of the different things. Where it's like Jesus Christ, I'm just watching stuff in a different experience, and it's. I think I surprised my parents when I put the Batman on in that dark room and
Ooh.
stuff,
I
and it
have
was
not
like
watched the Batman on my OLED yet. Sorry to cut you
yeah.
off.
No, it's like you have to because when like because at the very beginning when you're hearing the stuff and they're kind of going through the stuff and then you see that scene where he kind of just walks out of the scene, stuff is going on in the background, subs are going off, Atmos speakers are going off, and you just kind of hear that, and then you see him literally appear out of nothing. Like it brings a whole new level to that movie. It
Yeah, you're
it's like it's
right.
one of those things where it's all like, I really want a projector in that room, but it's hard to be what an OLED can do. Um,
Right.
like it's one of those things where like if you could buy a 120-inch, 150-inch OLED screen, like there is nothing that's going to compete it against it. Like even like 100-inch like LED screen, it's like yeah, it's LED, is backlit, but the size of this and the colors and clarity, it's really hard to go with a projector of the same size. And one of the things about like why I want to go with a projector is because like I could get close enough, but on a way bigger canvas and watch like just seeing something on 120-inch, it's just like, yeah, this is a complete different experience. I'm not even in the same house. But playing a game on an OLED, it's just really hard to not be like, yo, this is crazy. Like, why did I get a 65-inch? It's too small. I need to have it really, it's like when I'm watching like a cinematographer, I can't say it. When I'm watching a movie in like the cinema like spec,
Cinematography. Yeah.
or like in like the cinema spec, like the 21 by
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
and I have the black bars because the room is black and I have no light there, they truly disappear. So it only looks like the screen is
Nice.
like a stretched out 50-inch rather than like a 16 by 9 65, right? So it's all like, wow, like it looks very small when I play like those kind of movies. So like when you're running like Dune and stuff like that, like stuff is just dark. You're just kind of like, man, my mom creeped up on me on one time when she visited, and I was like, "Oh, what the?" It's just just kind of just snuck in, and I because I was too in it, like I was
Yeah.
in the game or whatever. Like I wasn't over here. I was like, "This is what I need." I'm like, I need to get some. I need to at least tell my lights to kind of go off when somebody like does something. Like that's why sometimes I do close the door now because if I close the door, then all the lights change and like turns on. It's like, oh, I know at that point because it's like a really loud like clinking sound. But like when I
Yeah.
just had it like just open because I was like, I just didn't want it to be fully closed in there. I'm not trying to exclude myself. Yeah, it was just kind of like everything else kind of disappears, and then you just kind of just see this hand like, how's it going? Oh, Jesus! It's like I'm not even watching anything scary. I just wasn't expecting anything at that time.
Yeah.
I was expecting.
You're so in the zone.
Mhm.
Heck yeah, dude.
So it's just hard. If I could buy an OLED TV for that size, I'd probably just do that. Um, I know you could do like the panel like TVs and stuff, but that's some serious heat. You need to have some
Ugh.
serious stuff, circulate that heat out, and if you want to spend a lot of electricity, there you go, Captain. And also, it's like, yeah, it'd probably be cool, but it's more like a I want to bring friends over just to see it and tell them to leave than it is like this is truly for me. It is one of those
Yeah.
show off things, like, and I've seen it when I was looking at home theater stuff, how they look and all that. And yeah, you can get a really big screen and stuff, but to me, it still feels like this is more for a football game than it is for
Hmm.
movie viewing. Like a projector's still going to be king in that aspect.
What do you? I'll keep it like on the OLED talk and stuff like that. What are your ideas or your views actually about like these new monitors starting to come out that are OLED monitors for the computer?
It's perfect. Um, like I said, like LED works out really well. I think when it comes to monitors, is making sure that the display is for a monitor. Because I seen there's one monitor that's 43 inches, but it really plays more on the TV aspect. and I see that TV in the clearance section forever. Like it's always
Really?
like people just they buy it because they're like, yeah, it's big, and it's like, yeah, like this screen is 49 inches wide, but it's wide, so it's kind of thinner and stuff. When you get a monitor that's 16 by 9 in a big format, it's a big difference. Like the 32-inch screen that I have on top here, it was such a big thing. Like I was like, oh, I'm seeing a lot, especially in 4K. But when it comes to like what kind of abilities and the quality and is it really made to do stuff on the computer, it really pops up at a sore thumb when it doesn't work. Like we're like,
Yeah.
oh, this could be good for a TV if you're getting a free channel off of an antenna, but not when like, hey, why does my document look so weird? Or like, why is my mouse looking like it's doing the matrix all the time and I didn't change the sensitivity? It's like it could be a bad experience. But I feel like that's LG OLED 48 inch. I feel like it ends up being the best of both worlds because I feel like OLED just adds a lot of stuff that computers
Hmm.
can take advantage of. It's there's a lot of stuff that just gets omitted. It's like even a bad OLED is still as good as a really good notable brand LED. You know,
Yeah.
like you can start getting like high sense OLED and be all like, oh, yo, this is dope. It's like, get like cheap OLEDs all the time. They're thin. You go put them anywhere. There's some reason heavier. I still try to figure that out because trying to lift my
Yeah.
65-inch on a mount wall is a lot harder to do than when I was just bench pressing my 65-inch Sony. When I was just like,
Yeah.
I just picked it off from the floor and there you go. But when it was like my OLED, I'm having like Laura in the middle to make sure it's not doing any weird stuff. My Uncle Kevin's on the side. He got one corner, I got the other corner. We got three people to be like, okay, man. He's like, don't touch the screen, don't touch the front. Matter of fact, don't even touch the back. Just don't try to find some way to touch it, but don't touch it.
Use your Jedi mind powers to lift it up.
Yeah, so like we call him Professor X to come down here and be like, hey, I need a mounting service. How much do you charge? It's like you're being very careful, but at the same time, it's like all that weight is on the very bottom, and
Yeah.
everything on top is like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna break this. I do not feel
Yeah.
comfortable with this at all.
Yeah, I felt nervous as hell because I mounted my 55 inch in by myself,
Mhm.
and I used my desk to stand on, and I was just like, well, I hope I don't fall into the dress while I'm carrying this freaking heavy ass TV, and I was able to get it, and I was like, all right, I got it. Like, I wish I would have like mounted it a little bit lower, but I was like, yeah, I did it by myself. It's fine where it's at.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, man, if I actually did convince Laura to give me the 77-inch, it's like, oh god, like I was like, man, I don't even see how I would be able to move this. Like I actually do really want a Sony OLED. Like I was kind of sad after a while. Now I'm all like, oh, I really do want better color picture and stuff. More than like HDMI 2.1s or whatever. Or I can't say that. I just wish I had everything without feel like I had to compromise, especially when you're breaking $2,000 on a TV.
Yeah,
Like you kind of like feel like, why am I still compromising? Just put the ports in there.
yeah,
Like Sony, like you can't tell me they're costing that much in materials. Just put HDMI 2. Your console needs it.
for real.
It's like don't disappoint me. I don't really have to want to buy a Samsung, but it's like one of those things where it's like, oh man, this is a big difference. OLED is a really big difference when it comes to like gaming in particular, but it's multi-purpose. You can use it for a monitor, you can use it for something like that. You can use it for anything that needs to be thin and you just need stuff to disappear and look like it looks natural. Like
Yep.
once OLEDs start becoming like way cheaper, I'll use one for a movie poster just because it will look really good to have like the movie posters kind of move on across the screen and stuff on it. Because
That'd
yeah,
be dope.
they're like just to see like the standby images of the LG, I'm all like, yeah, you could have that for like an actual like if I actually had the frame, like the Samsung frame around it,
Yeah,
it would look like a picture. You wouldn't even think like, oh wow, that's a nice picture. You wouldn't think it was a TV or anything like that.
heck yeah. It's just the OLED monitors that are coming out are nice, but they're really expensive at the moment. But I understand why. I think my only other concern too is like how to, because on a monitor you have your computer screens and you have all your apps and stuff like that. So how do you, or how does it bypass burn-ins on on the screen with
Burners
your
has gotten a
logos?
lot better. Honestly, at this point, technology has got to a point where people are thinking of small hacks. Like you, as long as you have something moving on the screen, like it's a little bit harder for your computer monitor because if you don't set your computer to do particular things, then you probably are more susceptible to burn in, especially for HUDs in video games and stuff like that. But like for TVs, like a lot of times it's changing the dimming if you're just playing, you're not really using it for a long time. It's changing the background, or sometimes it does what it called like a pixel shift. Like it just
Right.
you can't see it, but it just kind of shifts it a little bit. Cause that's really it is. It's the fact the burn happens because something hasn't moved for like a good amount of time. And sometimes just like moving it for like a second, it's almost like resetting the clock. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, you could replacing a white pixel with a white pixel probably doesn't make much of a difference, in the grand scape of things. But it's kind of like I replaced a white sheet of paper with another white sheet of paper. I still replace the paper. Like
Right.
there was a time where like it went off and back on, and that's what it kind of comes down to. There is a
Yeah.
point that it actually changes.
That's where I want to look into those monitors and like kind of look at reviews and figure out what they do to get rid of the burn-in, as because it's mainly used as a monitor. You know what I mean? Not necessarily the TVs, but the actual monitors they've
Well,
come out
it's
with now.
and once you got burning, you ain't getting rid of it. Once burning's there,
Right.
yeah. It's like
I,
it is more
I've
the thing for
just
like what are they doing to prevent it?
Yeah, that's what I want to find out because I'm pretty sure they had to put something in there because when you're using a PC, I know like for Windows and stuff, you can have like your bar go drop down and you use your mouse to go underneath to bring it back up. That way you don't get burning. Because I was before I went for a double monitor, I was actually debating on doing the LG like 43 or 48 for a monitor and stuff like that. And I saw like the tips and stuff you had to do for things like that, and it's like okay, that seems like a little much. I understand why and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I would have this awesome screen and this and that,
Yeah.
and I decided to go with two monitors instead. But now that they're actually making monitors that are OLED, I want to find out because I personally haven't looked into it. What technologies are using to help out with the burn in those aspects?
Yeah. And sometimes you probably need to get stuff like I was in like the wallpaper app and stuff like that. Like on here I have like that wallpaper of the girl with the mask that just kind of goes off and stuff. Like it changes, it does motion and stuff like that. And it's probably need to do more stuff like that. Just like if something's always moving, it's fine. But sometimes it's like if you know you're gonna walk away from the computer or if you do it a lot, setting up like those sleep times and stuff really kind of eliminates the issue. Because yeah,
True.
your monitor shouldn't be on for like 5 hours on the same.
Yeah.
Like it's just one of even if you were playing games for that long, if you were playing games for that long and it created a burn in, the TV itself was bad at that point.
Yeah.
There should have been something to prevent that. But I've been having this TV since 2018, 2019. Whenever I'm not sure. I think I had the C11 or the one after the C10. Um, and I haven't ran into a burn-in issue. Even when I go downstairs and I forget the PlayStation stuff is on, the PlayStation is not going to stay on. It's going to go to sleep. It's going to be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you're not using me. Well, fine. I'm just going to turn off."
Uh,
Now you have to wait till I turn back on. Sucks to be you. Same thing with the Xbox. Same thing with the Switch. Like they're all like, yeah, they just don't have a. I'm going to stay on and just have like Sonic just stepping his finger like over and over. Like they're not doing that anymore. So it
yeah, for
will
sure.
pause, will turn off. But OLED TVs, love them. Wish they weren't so expensive and I can get it in a huge, big format kind of way. But
There is a this is a little off topic, but it still sticks with the OLED. There's been like a slight rumor going around that they're gonna have a special edition Legend of Zelda OLED Switch.
they probably will. But the Switch needs to fix the other problems with the Switch
It
before I
just needs a
really
new
consider.
Switch.
Yeah, it's battery. It's I want to play like even when I was like, it's definitely when you're playing Pokemon, you're killing the battery. Like it's definitely you could feel like, oh man, I gotta throw in my charger and I gotta figure it out. And you realize like when I'm using the charger that I use to charge my phone, and I'm using like a 60-watt charger and stuff like that. And I realize how much power is still being used to the point where it takes a very long time to go up 5%. And you're just like, it didn't charge nothing that I've been on the cord, and it's not charging anything. It's like Jesus, it's just like I don't even have like the little controllers off. They're not using battery. Everything should be topped. But yeah, like when you're playing and it's running. Like it
Yeah,
really is running. So it's one of those things where I just kind of notice like, yeah, they just need to just have a better handheld. At the point they have to fix the previous issues. They gotta make it to where I can play. I gotta play like I was playing the Game Boy. Hate to say it, but if you're gonna do a Game Boy thing, I'm not even mad about the graphics. Really, I'm kind of not. Like the Steam Deck,
yeah.
let the Steam Deck win in that category. Let all the other things win in that category. That's not why you buy a Nintendo. If you bought a Nintendo for graphics, you done messed up. It's like you weren't you jumped into the game a little bit too late.
What are you doing with your life?
Yeah, but everything else has to work. Like you want stuff to work for a long time because it's a console meant to be played for a long time. And that's the whole point of even going this route that they're doing. Like, yeah, I could play it on the screen, but the whole point was so I could take it around and play it, and then play with another person, like without having to buy another controller. Like that's literally like the beauty of this whole console. So to be able to kill the battery in 4 hours, or just kill the battery because you're like, oh, well, I'm playing, but I don't really like turn it off, and I come back to it, play it, and then you realize, oh, I haven't put it to a charger. Where am I at right now? you know,
Yeah,
it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it takes like a game like Pokemon to kind of realize the the fundamental limitations that this console has.
for sure. It will be really interesting when Legend of Zelda comes out and see, because they're definitely have to improve on it and like some aspects stuff like that. I wonder how well it's going to perform battery wise for the Switch.
How long is Breath of the Wild? Now that I'm talking about games, I got to go back to a finish.
That game could be a long one. Probably like
Uh,
40 to 60.
ooh, we're close, 50. Like you literally jumped over it. That's like when focusing on the main objective, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is about 50 hours in length. If you're a gamer that strives to see all aspects of the game, you are likely to spend around 189 hours to obtain 100%. What?
I never got 100% in that game, but that is one game that took me like 4 to 5 months to beat, and that's because the way I played it was my fault, and I played it in like quote unquote hard mode from the get go, and
No.
that's where like I turned off I turned off the HUD, so like I had no mini map, no nothing, and I would just went into that world, and that's like, all right, Link, we're going this way. Let's see where it takes us. And so that's how I played that game.
At this, and I'm saying like, I'm gonna buy a strategy guide so I can know I can just okay go here first. Like I need to cut this down. But Jesus Christ, I am nowhere near finished beating that game. I might as well start fresh.
Yeah,
I, I'm looking at it
absolutely.
all like because I remember you asked me that for like another RPG or like God of War. It's like whenever you start God of War, it's like no, I'm too far. Yeah, this game I'm starting fresh. I'm just erasing the save file. Like I don't care
Yeah.
where I am, but it was definitely nowhere near where I should be. Jesus Christ, 50 hours. I can't even imagine that now after doing this little experiment of mine. It's like Jesus. And some people just were playing it so hard that they were
the
feeling it.
the benefit of it is being honestly like for long games like that, handhelds really help a lot. That's one thing that really does help me a lot because I could just take it wherever I'm going. In senses like if I'm going to my partner's house, stuff like that, I could take my Switch with me, and if we're just watching like whatever, just have background noise, we're just hanging out. I could just play the Switch and then just play the game at the same time. You know what I mean? Like that's the one thing where it really does. That was like the perfect opportunity for that aspect in that game to be like, heck yeah, man, that's it. Like, so it sounds like a lot for you, but the fact that it's in handheld mode, which Yeah, it would still help out. You know what I mean? Like if you and Laura are on the couch just kind of watching whatever, like watching a rerun stuff that you would watch, because we know we all have that stuff on. You
Hmm.
could just be playing Breath of the Wild on the Switch, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think it might be easier to do than Octopath Traveler in the same amount of time because the Octopath Traveler is like, man, I probably got to read a lot. I didn't even know the
Yeah.
game supports like voice acting at this point. That's how like no like new I am to it. It's just like, man, it's like I probably have to read a lot and pay attention. Like even when I'm playing Epic 7, there's some stuff I haven't got into because it's like, oh, I gotta pay attention to this or else there's no point. So I'll just
Yeah.
push this off. But Jesus Christ, I didn't even realize that game was that long. But this
It's
is
so
what I'm
good
like.
though.
This is what I'm waking up to. It's like some games they do command time. And while I mean, and I have all the time now that I'm more aware of how much time it actually takes, I can plan for a little bit better. But I also tell myself, yeah, I'm probably not going to see some of these other projects. So let me do these other projects real quick, so that way I'm not, regretting, not playing these games. And I think that's what I was trying to avoid.
I think at the same time too, like you got to be in the right headspace for the game you want to play. You know what I mean? That's
True.
what it comes down to at the end.
You got to prepare for it. Yeah, there is just some things right now. I know it's 50 hours. Like I got to prepare myself. I got to be
Yeah.
like, yep, not doing anything else. We gonna get this good. It's like, yeah, like and that's it. I thank God it's on the Switch because if it was on the PlayStation, like man, you definitely wouldn't see me or like the Xbox or whatever. Well, at least the Xbox I can Game Pass it, like maybe kind of
Yeah.
make up some time. But Jesus, like that's just one of those things. But I think we kind of got to the end of the conversation. There's a lot to talk about. I think one of the things that kind of what we were talking about in our last, New Year kind of conversation. Like there's just some stuff we want to say, and I remember you said, I want to be able to chance to play more games and stuff. And I just kind of realized, yeah, I kind of want to do that too. Like I want to experience stuff. I want to get inspired to try and do some of the other stuff that I was talking about earlier. But I want to make sure that I'm just not missing out. Like, like I'm not missing out on stuff that are happening, games that could be good that I'm not giving enough time to and stuff like that. So I think, it's like this is something I'm really looking forward. I'm probably gonna keep doing something like this. Like, yeah, how long did it take? Manage it and see if I can like, yeah, I can do that first. I can do this. I think the story and or everything the game's gonna do is gonna be worth it. I think that's kind of what's really gonna help me like make those decisions for those longer games.
I think if you haven't yet, try out Vampire Survivors just because if you beat the level, it's 30 minutes max. So you can time yourself around that game for those aspects, and it's a easy game but fun to play at the same time where you can kind of just, all right, I'm gonna dip in this for like an hour, and you're done. You know what I mean? It's a nice little palate cleanser in between things.
All right, all right. I know I'm a little afraid to kind of dive into something like that, but I know at some point I want to try it out. But with that, everybody, thank you for joining in today's episode. We talked about a lot about gaming and stuff, and we kind of want to hear about some of the games that you played. If you played any over this winter break, had time to kind of explore stuff, had time to open your Christmas presents. Hopefully, you got games for Christmas. Those are always the best Christmas presents. I keep telling my family it's like I'm pretty easy to shop for if you just ask. I will guide you to the right answer.
Yeah,
Don't think about it. I'll guide you there. But if you had time to play games, we want to hear what type of games you got to play. What did you do over the break? And, put in the comments and stuff like that after the video. But if you didn't have a chance to see us live and you want to make sure you catch us next time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Fridays, that's the time we're going to go on for the next episode. We're starting, kind of getting back up, kind of getting some stuff in order and have all these episodes and stuff. And hopefully you might have or see a new background back there because I got to figure out what else to put on that wall now that the tree's gone. But I really do appreciate your time. If you had a chance to join us live today and comment on any of the stuff that we said, thank you for joining us. My name is DuShaun Williams. Here is Christopher Moncada, and we'll see you next time.